let's start the interview by talking about you finding wrestling as a young man and competing in the college ranks.
Yeah, growing up, my dad had a really close friend of his that was the first four-time state champ ever in Alabama. So he talked about wrestling a lot, and then my cousin got into it, so I started wrestling. And my first wrestling coach told me, he said, "If you'll stick with this, you can. I think you can be good." And so I liked the sport. It was so much harder than everything else. Before that, I'd been in love with football, and ended up winning a state championship in high school and going on and, winning an NAI national championship in college. It was, a big part of my life and a big part of what got me into MMA.
Awesome, man. You sure have some success fighting up in Canada, or just fighting Canadians in general. You're making the Canadians look like chumps.
We always, my friends always joke around about how much the Canadians must hate me, but, I really do enjoy fighting there. The fans in Canada are great. They know everything about MMA. And, all the guys that I've fought there have been tough guys, It's just, it's going my way.
Okay, man, so let's talk about your last victory over Ryan.
Ryan McCann was a tough guy. I used to train with a guy, David Hewlett, who had just lost to McCann right before that. So I knew he was tough if he beat David. That fight, McCann was coming up a weight kind of, so I was a good bit bigger than him. But, I felt great there. Came out and he kind of backed into the cage, so it just gave me a takedown. And, I was able to finish him once I got him on the ground.
Let's just talk about your opponent for the fight on Friday. It's good exposure for you. You're fighting on HDNet. But talk about your opponent.
Reggie Pena is who I'm fighting. I think he's really tough. He was a tough high school wrestler. He's had several professional boxing matches. So I know he's going to come out. He's going to be a tough guy. And I expect him to, be ready to fight 3 rounds.
Okay, so can we expect the old wrestler versus boxer type of storyline in this fight?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I've watched a couple of fights from him. I feel like I can stand with him, and that I'll be fine there. I think it's going to be a pretty interesting fight. I know he's tough, but I plan on finishing him. I think it'll be, I think it'll be a good fight for everybody. I think it'll be pretty action-packed as long as it lasts. And, I'm hoping for a finish. It might be 3 hardball rounds, which would be great for the fans.
For sure. So, in your career, you've had a lot of success. Undefeated amateur record, only 2 losses in your MMA pro career, both in the UFC. Is that the ultimate goal, to get back to the UFC?
I get asked that all the time. That's definitely something that I would enjoy seeing in my future. But really, just whatever happens next. There's Bellator's coming up well. The XFC's growing. There's a lot of good organizations coming up. So really, I'm not necessarily just trying to jump right back in the UFC. But if the right thing comes along, that'll be great. I feel like I'm ready to go anywhere right now.
Okay, and looking back at your time in the UFC, were you a little surprised being cut? You had a huge win over Jason McDonald.
I wasn't really, I don't want to say surprised, I knew there was a possibility. That fight against Miller, I felt like I was looking good, but I, screwed up in the second round and got caught in a choke. And, I had a small record, 5-2, wasn't as, many fights as most people in the UFC have. So it didn't really shock me when they released me, but it was fine. I feel like at that time I was just on the verge of being ready to fight in the UFC, and now I feel like I'm ready to, fight anybody in the UFC. So it was probably a good thing for me to really work on getting a lot better, and getting some experience.
Okay, and just talk about some of the guys that have helped prepare you for this fight.
I've had a really good training camp. Chris Davis, who is fighting the 205 tournament for Bellator on Friday. He's been a big part of it every day. Dustin West, who's on the main card of this. Chris Barnheiser, who's actually trains, Portland, Oregon, took some time to come down here and help me get ready for the fight. So I've had him for several weeks. And then, Sean Hammonds, who's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. We have several black belts, that are in all the time. So that really helps a lot and goes a long way having those kind of guys. Dave Brocklehurst, another really big black belt in jiu-jitsu that's there every morning. I've had a lot of tough guys that have helped me a lot. And Josh Shockman is my Muay Thai coach. And anybody that's, watched a lot of MMA probably knows who he is. He's got incredible stand-up. So, getting to spar with him all the time helps a lot, too.
Yeah, it's a pretty crazy weekend for mixed martial arts. We have Bellator, like you mentioned, and UFC Friday night, and then XFC a little later in the evening. Should work out good for you. Main event time, everyone switches over.
Yeah, I hope so. I think it'll be good. I think everybody that watches XFC will be pretty entertained. It looks like a pretty good card. And I know to start out with, I think Dustin West is the first fight. He's always exciting because he's going to knock somebody out. And then I know I'm going to be exciting at the end. So I think it should be a good night of fights.
Okay, final question here for you, man. Fantasy fight time. If you could fight anyone in the world, past or present, who would it be?
I got to say Michael Bisping. I think every 185er probably says that, but he just seems like the guy that'd make you feel good to punch.
He's got that face you want to punch, huh?
Yeah, it's his mouth. I started out really liking him, and I think he is a tough fighter, but he rubs his mouth a lot.
One guy that really rubs me the wrong way, I don't know, lately, since Henderson laid that shot in, I think his attitude's been a little better, but
yeah.
For sure, man. Okay, so anything you'd like to promote, such as your Twitter or Facebook?
First I want to thank God because He's helped me a lot, and go check me out at John Salter MMA on Twitter, and I have a Facebook fan page, John Salter. John Salter MMA, and then everybody at National MMA that's helped me, and Clinch Gear, they're my sponsor for this fight.
Okay, great. Thanks for the time, John.